revealing the footage history left behind. You are watching Bodycam Story Vault. The investigation begins.
You still haven't told me why you pulled me over, Sheriff.
Ma'am, vehicles like this are often flagged for theft. Just need to verify ownership.
Flagged for theft? I've driven this car for 3 years. It's in my name.
That may be, but someone in your situation driving a car like this raises questions.
United States District Judge Vanessa Thornton had spent 16 years presiding over civil rights cases from the federal bench. She had heard testimony from hundreds of victims of racial profiling. She thought she understood their experience. On February 14, 2025, she learned what it actually felt like. Deputy Clint Barker pulled her over on Highway 49 and claimed her Lexus was flagged for theft. There was no flag, no report, no traffic violation, just a black woman in a nice car. Someone in your situation, driving a car like this raises questions. My situation? You mean black? When Judge Thornton identified herself, Barker's hand moved toward his weapon. When she produced her judicial credentials, his face went pale. 23 prior complaints in his personnel file, all dismissed. A pattern of stopping minority drivers in luxury vehicles. Social media posts questioning whether black families deserved nice neighborhoods. 8 years federal prison. $35 million verdict. The largest police misconduct award in Georgia history. And a judge who returned to her bench with new understanding. I thought I knew what victims of profiling experienced. Until I was on that roadside, watching an officer's hand move toward his gun because I was black in a nice car. I didn't truly know. Now I know. Subscribe to the channel. These stories need to be shared. Friday morning. Highway 49 through Peach County. Judge Vanessa Thornton was driving to Fort Valley to visit her 87-year-old mother. A standing ritual when her court docket permitted. Beatrice Thornton still lived in the house where Vanessa had grown up. Still sharp. Still proud. Still wanted to see her daughter looking successful. Today Vanessa was bringing her mother's favorite pastries from a Macon bakery. Planning to take her to a doctor's appointment. The simple business of a daughter caring for the woman who had raised her. She was dressed professionally but comfortably. Black blazer, silk blouse, elegant silver necklace. Her mother liked to see her looking the part. Her silver Lexus LS 500 hummed along the highway. A gift to herself when she received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Bar Association. The car she had earned through 16 years on the federal bench. Appointed by the President. Confirmed by the Senate. United States District Judge for the Middle District of Georgia. Before that, 9 years as an assistant U.S. attorney prosecuting civil rights violations. Before that, 7 years as a partner at one of Atlanta's most prestigious law firms. Columbia Law School. Spelman College valedictorian. 6 generations of her family in Georgia, from slavery to sharecropping to the federal bench. She had presided over Fourth Amendment cases for 16 years. She knew the law better than most lawyers who appeared before her. As she passed through Peach County, she noticed the sheriff's cruiser pull out from a speed trap position. She wasn't speeding. Her registration was current. Her taillights worked. She had checked them last week. But she also knew exactly why she was about to be pulled over. The cruiser followed her for 2 miles. No lights. Just following. Waiting. Then the blue lights activated. Judge Thornton pulled over safely onto the shoulder. Put the car in park. Placed her hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. Lowered her window. She had done this before. Every black person who drove nice cars in rural Georgia had done this before. Deputy Clint Barker approached her window. Some traffic stops seem routine at first. Have you ever sensed that a situation was about to go wrong before it actually did? Share your experience in the comments. Deputy Clint Barker. Badge number 1847. 12 years with the Peach County Sheriff's Office. He approached the driver's window, but didn't introduce himself. Didn't state the reason for the stop. Just stood there, looking into the car. Assessing. His Bodycam was recording. The dash cam in his cruiser had captured him following Judge Thornton for 2 miles before the stop. You still haven't told me why you pulled me over, Sheriff. Her voice was measured. The tone she used when attorneys made weak arguments in her courtroom. Ma'am, vehicles like this are often flagged for theft. Just need to verify ownership. Judge Thornton's head tilted slightly. The expression that preceded devastating rulings. Flagged for theft? I've driven this car for 3 years. It's in my name. That may be, but someone in your situation, driving a car like this raises questions. The words hung in the February morning air. My situation? You mean black? Barker stepped back slightly. I didn't say that. I'm just doing my job. Your job is to enforce the law, not to assume a black woman in a nice car must have stolen it. She kept her hands visible on the steering wheel. The discipline of someone who understood how quickly these situations escalated. What's your badge number, deputy? Barker bristled. Ma'am, I don't appreciate the attitude. Step out of the vehicle. On what grounds? What traffic violation did I commit? What crime am I suspected of? What probable cause do you have to order me from my vehicle? I don't need to explain myself to you. Out of the car. Now. Judge Thornton didn't move. I'm not getting out of this car. I've committed no crime. I know my rights better than you do. I should know. I rule on Fourth Amendment cases for a living. Barker's hand moved toward his weapon. Ma'am, this is your last warning. Judge Thornton's voice turned to ice. The tone that had silenced hostile attorneys and unruly courtrooms for 16 years. Deputy Barker, I am United States District Judge Vanessa Thornton. I have presided over this judicial district for 16 years. And if you draw that weapon, I promise you will spend the rest of your career answering for it in my colleagues' courtrooms. When procedure meets prejudice, the footage tells the truth. If you believe documentation matters in situations like these, consider leaving a like. It helps more people understand why proper protocols exist. Barker froze, hand still near his weapon. Judge, you expect me to believe. I'm reaching for my credentials. Watch my hands. Judge Thornton moved slowly, deliberately, the same care she instructed defendants to use when reaching for identification. She pulled her judicial ID from her purse, her federal court badge, held them up where the body cam could capture them clearly. United States District Judge, Middle District of Georgia, appointed by the President, confirmed by the Senate. She let the credentials speak for themselves. I have sat on the federal bench since before you had your badge. Now, I want your supervisor here. I want your dash cam preserved. And I want to know what stolen vehicle report you were supposedly responding to. Barker's face had gone pale, the particular pallor of someone understanding the magnitude of their mistake. He stepped back from the vehicle, keyed his radio with a shaking hand. Dispatch, I need a supervisor on Highway 49 near mile marker 12. Immediately, the response crackled through. Copy. What's the situation? Barker paused. How to explain that he had just threatened to draw his weapon on a federal judge? Just send the sheriff. Now. Sheriff Raymond Tucker arrived in 8 minutes. He had heard the radio traffic, recognized the name, driven personally. He approached Judge Thornton's vehicle, hat literally in hand. Judge Thornton, I am so sorry. I don't know what happened here. What happened, Sheriff, is your deputy pulled me over for driving while black. He claimed my vehicle was flagged for theft. Was there such a report? Tucker checked with dispatch. There was no stolen vehicle report matching her car. No bolo. No flag of any kind. So your deputy fabricated probable cause to stop a black woman driving a nice car on a public highway, and then ordered me out of my vehicle at implied gunpoint when I questioned him. Is that accurate? Tucker had no good answer, because that was exactly what had happened. I'll be filing a formal complaint with the Georgia Peace Officers Standards and Training Council. I'll also be referring this matter to the FBI for potential civil rights violations. She looked at the sheriff. And I suggest you preserve every piece of footage from this stop, because you're going to need it. Subscribe if you want to see how evidence and witnesses can change the course of an encounter. Stories like this need to be documented. Judge Thornton arrived at her mother's house 45 minutes late. Beatrice Thornton was waiting on the porch, 87 years old, sharp as she had been at 40. Worried the way only mothers worry. Vanessa, where have you been? I was about to call the hospital. I got pulled over, Mama. Pulled over? For what? For driving a nice car while black. Beatrice's face shifted. The expression of a woman who had marched in civil rights protests in the 1960s. Who had been spit on. Who had watched fire hoses turned on children. Baby, I thought things were supposed to be better by now. They will be, Mama. I'm going to make sure of it. She explained what had happened. The deputy, the fabricated report, the hand moving toward the weapon, the credentials that had prevented escalation. Beatrice listened, nodded slowly. Your grandmother was stopped once. 1954, walking home from the house where she cleaned. White officer wanted to know what she was doing in that neighborhood. She told him she worked there. He told her to prove it. What did she do? Called the family she worked for from a pay phone. They had to come vouch for her, like she was a runaway slave needing papers. Beatrice looked at her daughter. The federal judge, The woman who had climbed higher than anyone in their family had ever climbed. 70 years later, you had to show your credentials too. Different papers. Same reason. The doctor's appointment was rescheduled. The pastries went uneaten. Friday's ritual had been disrupted by the same forces that had disrupted Black lives in Georgia for generations. But Judge Thornton made a call before she left her mother's house. FBI Atlanta Field Office. Civil Rights Division. This is United States District Judge Vanessa Thornton. I need to report a civil rights violation by a Peach County Sheriff's deputy. I have footage. I have witnesses. And I have 16 years of experience knowing exactly how to prosecute this kind of case. The investigation began that afternoon. At this point, opinions usually split. Do you think this situation could have been avoided with better training and oversight? Let us know in the comments. FBI opened the investigation within 24 hours. Georgia Bureau of Investigation assisted with evidence collection. The bodycam footage was secured. The dashcam footage was subpoenaed. The dashcam told the story that Barker had tried to hide. It showed him sitting in a speed trap position on Highway 49. Showed Judge Thornton's Lexus passing at the posted speed limit. Showed Barker pulling out and following her. For 2 miles. No traffic violation observed. No erratic driving. No basis whatsoever for a stop. Just following a nice car driven by a black woman. Waiting. Deciding. Then activating his lights. This stolen vehicle report he had claimed? It didn't exist in any database. He had fabricated the entire pretext. Barker's personnel file revealed the pattern that should have ended his career years earlier. 23 prior complaints of racial profiling and pretextual stops, all marked unfounded or exonerated by internal affairs. His stop data completed the picture. During his 12 years, Barker had conducted 847 discretionary traffic stops. 612, 72%, had targeted minority drivers. His colleagues averaged 29% minority stops on the same patrol routes. The disparity was statistically undeniable, and luxury vehicles were a specific target. Barker had a documented pattern of stopping black drivers in expensive cars. Mercedes, BMW, Lexus, the vehicles he apparently believed black people couldn't legitimately own. His personal truck had a Confederate flag bumper sticker, visible in department parking lot photos. His social media, subpoenaed as part of the investigation, revealed the attitudes behind the actions. Another luxury car in the wrong hands today. Made sure to check it out. Why do these people think they can drive whatever they want? Know your place. Black families moving into nice neighborhoods. There goes the property value. The posts questioning whether black families deserved nice neighborhoods had been visible to his colleagues for years. No one had reported them. The federal grand jury convened 8 weeks after the incident. Indictments, civil rights violations, deprivation of rights under color of law, false imprisonment, filing false reports. Deputy Clint Barker would face trial for stopping a federal judge because he couldn't believe a black woman belonged in a Lexus. If accountability in policing matters to you, leave a like and share your perspective below. The federal courtroom in Atlanta drew national attention. Judge Thornton's colleagues in the Middle District had recused themselves entirely. The case was heard in the Northern District to avoid any appearance of bias. Federal judge pulled over for driving while black became the headline that followed the trial. Judge Vanessa Thornton testified on the 4th day. She didn't wear her robes, just a simple black dress. Her mother Beatrice, 87 years old, sat in the front row. I was driving to visit my mother. The same route I've taken hundreds of times. Deputy Barker followed me for 2 miles before pulling me over. Did he observe any traffic violation? No. The dashcam confirms I was obeying the speed limit. My driving was unremarkable. What reason did he give for the stop? He claimed my vehicle was flagged for theft. That was a lie. No such flag existed. What happened when you questioned him? He said that someone in my situation driving a car like mine raised questions. When I asked if he meant black, he ordered me out of the vehicle. When I refused, his hand moved toward his weapon. The bodycam footage played. The jury watched Barker approach. Watched Judge Thornton remain calm. Watched the moment he said the words that would end his career. Someone in your situation, driving a car like this raises questions. Audible gasps from the gallery. Judge Thornton continued her testimony. My great-great-grandmother was born a slave 20 miles from where I was stopped. My grandfather picked cotton on land he could never own. My mother was spit on during civil rights marches. She looked at the jury. And in 2025, a federal judge was pulled over and threatened with a gun for driving a car a deputy didn't think she deserved. 6 generations in Georgia, and this is still where we are. The defense argued Barker was following procedure. The prosecutor's response was surgical. What procedure? There was no stolen vehicle report. There was no traffic violation. There was no probable cause. Deputy Barker followed Judge Thornton for 2 miles and invented a pretext because he saw a black woman in a Lexus. She displayed the pattern. 23 prior complaints. 72% minority stops. Social media posts questioning whether black families deserved nice things. This wasn't procedure. This was prejudice. The jury deliberated 4 hours. Guilty. All counts. Sentencing followed 6 weeks later. 8 years federal prison. Permanently decertified from Georgia law enforcement. Subscribe for more cases where evidence exposes what assumptions try to hide. The civil trial followed the criminal conviction. Judge Thornton sued Deputy Barker personally, the Peach County Sheriff's Office, and Peach County itself. The trial lasted 8 days. The evidence went beyond a single traffic stop. Data analysis revealed the full scope of the department's discriminatory practices. Black drivers were stopped at 5 times the rate of white drivers in Peach County. Luxury vehicles driven by minorities were a specific target, flagged for verification at 12 times the rate of identical vehicles driven by white residents. The culture that had produced Barker had also protected him. 23 complaints. All dismissed. No discipline. No retraining. No intervention. 3 other deputies were implicated in similar patterns of conduct during the civil discovery process. All were terminated before the trial concluded. Sheriff Raymond Tucker, who had arrived at the scene and failed to take immediate action, was forced to resign after the investigation revealed his systematic failure to address bias complaints. The jury deliberated 6 hours on the civil verdict. $35 million. $15 million in compensatory damages. $20 million in punitive damages. A message. One of the largest police misconduct verdicts in Georgia history. The Peach County Sheriff's Office was placed under DOJ consent decree for 10 years. The longest oversight period ever imposed on a Georgia law enforcement agency. Comprehensive reforms mandated. Documented articulable suspicion for all stops. Demographic reporting. Automatic investigation triggers when patterns emerged. Civilian oversight board. Mandatory bias training. The department that had enabled 12 years of discriminatory policing would spend a decade proving it had changed. Judge Thornton held a brief press conference after the verdict. This money doesn't undo what happened. It doesn't give me back that Friday morning with my mother. But it sends a message. There are consequences for treating black citizens as criminals based on what they drive. When reform follows tragedy, the numbers tell the story. Do you think consent decrees are effective at changing police culture? Share your thoughts below. Beatrice Thornton passed away 6 months after the traffic stop. She was 87 years old. She had lived to see the verdict. Lived to see her daughter stand in a courtroom and testify about 6 generations of struggle. Lived to see justice, one more time, in a lifetime that had often been denied it. Judge Thornton announced the distribution of the settlement at a press conference in Macon, her hometown, where her family had lived for 6 generations. My mother believed in justice her entire life. She marched for it. She was spit on for it. She raised children and grandchildren to fight for it. This money goes where she would have wanted it to go. $15 million to establish the Beatrice Thornton Justice Center in Macon, a facility providing free legal services to victims of police misconduct across rural Georgia. Named for a woman who had marched in the 1960s and lived to see her daughter become a federal judge. $10 million to the Equal Justice Initiative, Brian Stevenson's organization, continuing the work that had to continue. $5 million to Spelman College for scholarships for first-generation law students. The next generation of advocates. $5 million to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, the organization that had fought for civil rights since before Beatrice was born. I don't need this money. What I need is change. What my mother needed was change. What 6 generations of my family needed was change. This is how we build it. Georgia's legislature acted within the year. The Thornton Act, requiring documented articulable suspicion for all traffic stops, mandatory reporting of stop demographics, and automatic investigation triggers when patterns emerged. The law ensured that what happened on Highway 49 could never happen exactly the same way again. The stretch of highway where Judge Thornton was stopped now has a historical marker. Site of the traffic stop that changed Georgia law. Drivers pass it every day. Some stop to read. Some understand what it represents. If transparency and reform matter to you, consider leaving a like so stories focused on solutions reach more viewers. Clint Barker began serving his 8-year sentence at a federal facility in Alabama. His appeals were denied. His law enforcement certification was permanently revoked. His pension was forfeited. The 23 prior complaints that had been dismissed were reopened. 11 resulted in additional findings that would have supported termination years earlier. Judge Vanessa Thornton returned to her bench. The same courtroom. The same cases. Civil rights violations. Police misconduct. Constitutional matters. But something had changed. I thought I understood what victims of profiling experienced, she said in an interview 6 months after resuming her docket. I've heard their testimony for years. I've ruled on their cases. I thought I knew. She paused. But until I was on that roadside, hands on my steering wheel, watching an officer's hand move toward his gun because I was black in a nice car, I didn't truly know. Now I know. And that knowledge makes me a better judge. Her mother's house in Fort Valley became a museum of local civil rights history. The house where Beatrice had raised her children. The house that Judge Thornton had been driving to visit that Friday morning. She still visits every Friday when her docket permits. Same route. Same Highway 49. Same silver Lexus. The historical marker is visible from the road. She passes it every time. Judge Thornton was recently nominated to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. Her confirmation hearing featured testimony about the traffic stop and what it revealed about the ongoing need for civil rights vigilance. The case file remains in federal databases. Case number 2025 CR 00284. Subject: civil rights violations, deprivation of rights under color of law, false imprisonment, filing false reports. Location: Highway 49, Peach County, Georgia. Outcome: conviction. 8 years federal prison. $35 million verdict. Statewide legislation. 10-year consent decree. Institutional reform. Principle established. Credentials don't protect you from bias. Position doesn't protect you from prejudice. But evidence, procedure, and persistence can turn a violation into a vehicle for change. United States District Judge Vanessa Thornton proved that principle the only way available. By keeping her hands visible. By staying calm. By producing her credentials. By refusing to let one deputy's bias define her experience. By converting a Friday morning traffic stop into legislation that protects every driver in Georgia. The Lexus still runs. The route remains the same. The judge still visits her mother's house, now a museum, every Friday when she can. 6 generations in Georgia. 6 generations of proving they belonged. And a federal judge who proved it one more time, on a roadside, with a Bodycam recording everything. Subscribe for more stories examining justice, accountability, and the real impact of decisions made in moments like this.
History always reveals its facts. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to remain in our secure vault.